With us is Natalie Berg, analyst at Planet Retail. Natalie, always good to see you. Just what sort of challenge does Monsieur Plassard have?
He's got a lot of them. I certainly don't envy him. I think he's got the biggest job in retail this year and one of the hardest jobs in France. So I think he's got a lot on his plate to turn around Carrefour, but it won't be easy.
Now, just let's go back to the fundamentals then here. What are you saying is going wrong with Carrefour? You say its business model is fundamentally flawed.
It is fundamentally flawed in that it's overly reliant on slow growth markets. France in particular accounts for over 40% of sales. And it's also very reliant on a dated format, which is the hypermarket. People just aren't shopping these formats anymore, and they're not making that trip to the out-of-town, big box store. They're shopping online, they're shopping closer to home, and that's a real challenge for Carrefour.
So if the company is going to take on a more drastic approach, what does it need to do? And indeed, is there the will to do it? Because there's another boss doesn't mean things are going to change.
Absolutely. I think, Carrefour is stuck between a rock and a hard place in that, the hypermarket concept is really its bread and butter. But there are some things that they can do. I think, first of all, price perception has been a real issue for Carrefour. If you look at some of the other hypermarkets in France, Leclerc in particular, they've done very well on price, and that's really dented Carrefour. So I think price is an issue. There's some other, basics, availability of products, reducing out of stocks. There's some things that they can control. But equally, I think we could see them exit some markets to regain some cash.
Which markets in particular? The ones in France themselves?
No, of course not. I think, and that is the challenge. They're still so focused on Western Europe, but there's a lot of markets. Carrefour is in over 40 markets around the world. So there's a lot of markets in Asia and, in some other places around the world that they could exit to focus more on their core.
It'd be an interesting strategy to take, though, because everybody says that's where the growth is coming from.
Yeah, certainly, but it's a mixed bag. So markets like Brazil are, huge win for Carrefour. They're doing very well, high growth markets. But then China, which should be doing very well, is also struggling. And this goes back to, a fundamental issue with Carrefour in that it's become far too centralized. And I think that's something that Plassard will look to change. Give store managers more autonomy to make the local decisions that they need to, and to turn themselves around.
Now, they have been trying their best, haven't they, Carrefour? I mean, they introduced Carrefour Planet, which is a sort of like much more funkier surroundings. Has that been a failure?
Well, I think it was a step in the right direction, but the problem with Planet is that it was too costly. So it cost them twice as much to build one of these stores compared to a traditional Carrefour hypermarket. And one of the other problems, going back to price, is that the prices didn't change. So from a shopper's perspective, a lot of people felt that they were funding the remodels, and it just didn't work for them. So I think it was a step in the right direction, but
how much of a coup is Plassard's appointment? He's got non-food retail experience, for one thing, which is key here.
Absolutely, that is key, especially because, as we're hearing, not only from Carrefour, but also from the likes of Tesco and Walmart, the big multinationals, that non-food spending is very quickly shifting online. And for the hypermarkets, around half of the sales come from non-food products. This is a real challenge for them. So I think, absolutely, the fact he's got non-food experience, the fact that he's got experience turning businesses around, and also, crucially, he knows the French hypermarket scene. He has the experience at Casino and Carrefour himself. So I think he'll do well.
Assuming that Plassard stays, and goodness knows they've had loads of bosses over the past few years, so it's not a given, what sort of operation will Carrefour be in 5 years? Describe the Carrefour experience.
Oh, that is the million-dollar question, isn't it? I think, like I said, I think we could see them reduce their presence internationally, but ultimately they need to become much more focused on the French market. They need to make a huge investment in multi-channel, so focusing on e-commerce, focusing on the drive concept, which is huge in France, and I think they need to make these changes very quickly as well.
Natalie Berg, analyst at Planet Retail. Always a pleasure. Thanks very much indeed.
Yep.